Hello and welcome to my channel. In today's video we're going to be carrying on with the Frontend Mentor Sunnyside Agency Challenge. In this video we're going to be making it responsive for tablet and mobiles, adding some animations and hover effects. The first thing we're going to do is style the tablet version. To switch over to the tablet view, we go up to the toolbar and click on tablet. Now we'll have a little look through quickly. Right. We're going to start with the navigation. The first thing I'm going to do for a minute is I'm going to hide the hamburger menu to see if we can have the navigation bar without having the hamburger menu on the tablet. So we're going to click on this more actions button and choose no display. And then we're going to find our menu and we're going to click on this little button to redisplay it. At the moment it is in the raw grid section, so we'll click on the layers panel, click on the menu and click on the inspector, position that in the middle grid and stretch it for the minute. At the moment it's too large to fit there, but we will push the logo back right to the left side. I'm gonna change the font size on this button to, oh, not to 1 pixel. Let's try that again. 16, and we'll make this a little bit smaller. Let's try 130 first of all, and we will also make this grid gaps a bit smaller, and gonna also make this logo a little bit smaller. Let's try 100 pixels instead. Keep the same height and make sure that's docked to the left. And let's change this menu so the links are centered. We'll click the layout and center. And that's our navigation bar done for the tablet view. Now to move on to the banner. I think the main things we're going to want to change here is reducing this H1 title. Let's try 54. Yeah, I think 54 looks quite good. We'll make this one a bit bigger. Let's try 25%. Give this stack a width of 100%. And then we drop this back down to 15%. Yeah, I think that looks alright. Let's check it doesn't get too big on the larger tablet size. Okay, now we're going to move on to the services section. Right, I think the first thing I'm going to do is I just need to check something. Yeah. In the last video I forgot to change the color on the services paragraph, so we'll select the services paragraph on the desktop breakpoint and this should cascade down to the tablet and mobile, so we won't have to change it on each. Click on the designer tab and we want, is it that darker grey? Yeah, I think it's that darker grey. I think it's that one actually. Right, sorry about that. Let's carry on with the tablet view now. The first thing we're going to do is click on this container and change the padding. So we'll click on the padding. Let's change that to 10% on the left and let's try 8% on the right. And then we would do the same for the other containers padding. So we do 10% on the left and 8% on the right. We didn't use padding on those ones, so next I think we will reduce this, make sure these are docked properly, reduce the size of this text a little bit. Let's try a maximum of 50 and a minimum of 42. Just I think that can stay as 18, and I think that can stay as 18. So change this one's text as well. 50, 42, and make sure that's docked to the left. Oh, I clicked on it, forgot to change the colour. Let's go do that quickly. Okay, I think that's all fine. Right, let's drop the font size of this down by 2 on each one. We'll give it a little bit more width to bring it down a bit, and we'll also reduce the padding on the bottom to 32. I think that looks okay, and do the same on this one. Reduce the padding on the bottom to 32, and also increase the width of this one for tablet view to 80. Yeah, I think that looks okay so far. Now to move on to the client testimonials. I think the heading text is fine how it is. Let's reduce some of this padding on each side. Let's try 8% on each side for the minute. I think that's a little bit better. We'll also come in and let's have a look. What font size have we got here? I think actually maybe drop the gap down a tiny bit. Yeah, on the bigger tablet size that looks alright. On the very small tablet size it's a little squished, but I think that's okay. And I think on this picture column hit section here, we're going to change it to display 2 items per row instead. And let's change this minimum height to no, 200 definitely does not look good. Let's try 250 and change to no, we don't want that, we need it to fill. With the item selected, let's maybe 300, see how that looks. No, I think I'm gonna have to leave it as 400. Looks a bit weird the other way. the footer, we're just going to need to do a couple changes. Let's change the width of this stack to take up 60%. We click on the text at the bottom and change that to 100%. Yeah, and that is the tablet view done. Now let's move on to the mobile. For the mobile view, we will come back up to the taskbar and click on the mobile button. As we can see now, it's looking a lot more compact and not very good. So let's start on the navigation bar. First thing we do is we click that logo again and push that right to the left side. I'm going to go into the layers panel and we're going to select the menu, and we're not going to display it, and we're also not going to display the contact button, and we will display the hamburger menu, which we need to click on, and we want that one to be in the end last grid cell, sorry, and we want that pushed to the right. Let's have a look at the design. Okay, need to change the color to white. Next thing we need to do is change the size of this text, but the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the width from max content to 100%. And I'm going to leave that as 100%. We have still got a little bit of overflow from something at the moment, but we will fix that soon. Let's check the design again quickly. Okay, so we want the text aligned to the center. So, click on the paintbrush and align to the center. I think we need that to be a bit smaller. Let's try 48 pixels at the largest and 36 at the smallest. Let's try 40 at the smallest, and we increase the size of this vector up. Let's try 25%. How's that looking? Make a little bit more. Let's try 30%. Wrong button. Yeah, I think 30% looks pretty good. I think we also need to reduce the space between the title and the arrow, so we'll click on the stack and we will go to this display and change the item pacing to, let's try 32. Look a bit better. Yeah, I think 32 looks quite good, and that's the banner done. So now we're going to move on to the about section. The first thing we're going to do here is change the grid layout. At the moment we've got 2 by 2 with 3 rows. If we look at the design, we can see that we only have 1 column and 6 rows. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to select the section, which is where the grid is applied, and we're going to click on this button and other. We want 1 column and 6 rows, and click apply. Next, it's gotten a little bit mixed up here, but we'll start fixing that now. So let's look at the design. We've got the egg image we want that to be in the first grid column. Okay. Then we want the let's try and find it a second. I should have done this first. Is this the right one? Yeah, we want this container here in the second column. We want this image in the third row even, sorry, in the third row. We want this one in the 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth space, and we want the that's also got to go. We need to select the text there because I haven't put them in containers to also go into that row. That one's in the correct row. We just need... No, that's not the right one. Close that section. Photography. Graphic design. There it is. We want this container. And we want that in the fourth row. Alright. Now that we've got a bit of a layout better done here, it's getting there slowly. The next thing we want to do is make these grid cells a little bit bigger because at the moment they're not the quite right size. So we're going to click on the grid. I'm going to click on this little bar here, go up, and I'm going to change the minimum size. Let's try 250. 250 look a bit better, I think. Maybe 300. Yeah, I think 300 looks good. And then we're going to do the same for this other image. Oops, wrong button. Click on the minimum and change that to 300 as well. I believe we've got separate images for the mobile. Yeah. If we look at this one's details, the file info, it's a smaller resolution even though they are the same image. One's got a smaller size, but I don't think it's really necessary to switch these, to be honest. The file size is negligible and the actual size of the resolution size as well is not really much different, so I think we can leave these as they are. Let's now start styling these sections. So we need to align everything to the center and change the font sizes, and got a little bit of padding on the side, and we need to add some padding to the top and the bottom. So the first thing I'm going to do is adjust the padding. I'm going to select the container, come down to the padding, and I'm going to make that 5% on the left and 5% on the right, and I'm going to give it a 40 pixel margin on the top and a 40 pixel margin on the bottom. Padding on the bottom even, sorry. Okay, I think I think that's actually going to need a little bit more on all sides there. I think let's try 60 on the top and try, let's do 6. It's only a tiny difference, but I think that looks a bit closer to the design. Now let's click the main text of this card and adjust that size. Let's change that to a maybe 42 at the maximum and a 36 at the minimum. I think that's a bit better, and we're text align that to the center. We now change this font, click on the paragraph and change the font to 16 and align that to the center, and we will click on the container containing the link and we will dock that to the center. I think that looks about right. Maybe this headline should be heading text should be a little bit bigger. Let's change it to a maximum of 46 and a minimum of 38 instead. Okay, now let's do the same on this container. We'll select the container, we'll go down and adjust the padding first. 6 on the left, 60 on the top, 6 on the right and 60 on the bottom. Click on the heading text and we'll change that font size to, I think we did 46 and 36, or was it? To check now, whoops. Oh, 38 and 46, yeah. Change the font to 38 and 46. We'll also align that to the center and align the paragraph to the center and align the container with the link to the center. Okay, I think that's fine. We'll next move on to this next section. In this section we will need to replace that image. So what we're going to do for this is we're going to go to the layers panel and we want, I'm just going to close these to make it a bit easier to see. We want the second section and we want this image and this image to change. But if you change the image via this method and we click on that and I click update, you'll notice it says it's changed on all breakpoints, which now means the desktop version will have the wrong image. So what we have to do on that one is change that back or update that again, and then what we have to do instead is we'll have to add another image to that container. Make sure it's in the 5th column, then we're going to tell that to stretch, then we're going to right click, arrange, and I'm going to send it to the back. We're going to come to the layers panel, we're going to select our cherry image and we're going to tell that one not to display it on the mobile. Now we should be able to click on that, get that image, change that image to the cherry image, and we will also go back onto the section, click on this sidebar and adjust the 5th row, and we'll give that a minimum height of 400 pixels. We'll check the design quickly. Okay, I think that needs to be 600 pixels actually. I think that looks about right for the actual size. Now if we look at this, it got the text is taking up much more of the space this time, so I'm going to have this text take up, let's do 90%, and we're going to click on the paragraph, click on the design button and drop the font size down to 16. I think that, how far away, we've got a little bit more space at the bottom again now, so we will clicking the wrong button there. We click back in, we click on that stack, and I will give it a little bit more space at the bottom. Let's do go back to 48 pixels. And then we need to do the same for this final bottom column, so we will make sure we're in the right container. We will grab another image and attach that to the section, make sure that's in the bottom section. We will stretch that to fill the container. I'm going to change the image here this time. It doesn't matter what order you do it in. Update that image, right click, arrange, and send that to the back. Then we will click on the layers panel, find that image, and we're going to tell it to not display. And then we're going to click on this section, and we're going to, nope, we want the section, not the image. We'll also change the minimum height for this section to 600. We'll change the width of this to 95, I think we did on the top one. Let's just check. Nope, 90. Sorry. Change that to 90. Change the padding on the bottom of this stack to 48. And change the font size to 16. And that's the services section done for the mobile. So let's look at the next part. We've got our client testimonies, and what we're going to do for this section is we're going to, first thing we're going to do is we're going to make this heading text smaller. So let's drop that, let's make it 24 at the maximum size it can be, and maybe 20 at the minimum. I think that looks, let's actually make it 22 at the maximum. Next we're going to select our repeater. We're going to go to the design panel. We want the display, and we want it to be showing one card per column. We can see we've got quite a gap there, so we will increase the gap between the rows even, to 18 pixels, which for some reason hasn't worked. It's not increasing the gap as it should. Card repeater 24. No, it's 24, just a lot smaller than I was expecting it to be. Oh, it is doing it. It just, yeah, 24 just looked a lot smaller of a gap than I thought it would. Let's do 48. I think 48 looks okay. We'll also click on this paragraph text in the first repeater item, and we'll change that font size to 16. And we're going to click on the container and click onto the name, and we're going to drop that down as well to 20. Let's do 18 actually. I don't really know. Let's stick with 20. I don't really like going much below 14. It starts getting a little bit too small to read. Don't think there's quite as much gap between each item in the card now, so we're going to click on the stack, go down to the item spacing and drop it to 32 pixels. I think that looks better. We'll check the padding. Let's actually, I think that padding looks about right, but for consistency, I'm going to adjust it to match the padding of the other section. So we go with a 6% on the side, 60 on the top, 6% on the right, and 60 on the bottom. There we go. I think that looks pretty good. We might actually have too much space now between each card. Let's drop that back down to 32. Yeah, I think that's a bit better. Okay, now we've got to fix this section here. As we can see, we've got the same layout, the 4 images, but much smaller. For this section here, let's click and close that down so we can see what we're doing in the layers panel. We've got the repeater again. So the first thing we're going to actually do on this one is I'm going to select that first image and I'm going to tell it not to display. And then we're going to add another image to that item, which we're going to also stretch. And then we're going to change these images to the mobile versions, which I think are the, let me check, file info. I've got 894 by 720. Yeah, it's these first ones here we need to change it to. So check the design. We've got the milk bottles as the first image, so we will change that to the milk bottles. Then we click the next one, change image, and that was the orange picture. Then we click on the third image, which, yeah, ice cream cone. Change that to the ice cream cone image, and then we will select that final picture and change that to the sugar cube image. We will now click on the repeater again, and we will change the size even, sorry, not the repeater, on the item, and we will change the minimum height to 200 pixels. I think 200 pixels is a little bit too big still actually. So let's try 150. Oh no, 150 is definitely too small. 175. I think 175 looks good. Okay, now let's move on to the final stage, the footer. So as you can see, we've got the logo and it's not really changed much there. So the first thing we're going to do though is we're going to adjust this logo and give this a width of, let's do 80% for the minute, because we're also going to change the width of this stack. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to make this stack 100% width, and then we're going to add, select the footer, there we go, I'm going to add that 6% padding to each side of the footer. I'm also going to change that padding on the top to 40 to match the other sections, and on the bottom, oh no, it's 60 we did actually, not 40. So it matches the other sections. That's all ready. We're going to select the challenge text and we're going to bring that font size. No, let's leave it at 14 actually. I think these icon sizes are fine. We're going to select the navigation bar here and we're going to have to change that to a width of 100%. I'm going to make this, oh, no, moved a little bit there. Let's dock that back to the left. Let's make sure that's docked to the center and we'll make this a bit smaller. Say 60%. Let's have a quick look. I think 60% looks good. Make sure that's also docked to the side and that's docked to the center. I'm going to change the color of this text because it looks like it's actually a bit of a lighter green, but I think that's going to be a little bit too hard to see myself, so I think that is better off staying as the darker green. I don't think that's going to be very well viewable on the light background with the light text. And that is the mobile site done, I think. Let's quickly look through the design. Okay, yeah, that looks, I think everything looks pretty good. I think maybe this 600 should be a little bit smaller. Let's change it to 550 on these. We want the section, the grid, make that 550 as well. Okay, now let's work on this mobile menu. So we scroll right back up to the top. You can do this from anywhere on the page, but I like to do it whilst working at the top of the page. We'll click the hamburger menu and then we would click open menu. As we can see at the moment it's taking up the full width of the page and we don't want it to be quite that size. So the first thing I'm actually going to do is I'm going to select this vertical menu and I'm going to not display it for the minute. I'm going to click on the menu container and I'm going to give that a background, a transparent background. And it automatically sets the height to the full width and the full height of the container. Next, for this, we're going to have to make it a tiny bit different because we need to keep that close button. Oh, actually, no, we might not have to. Let's have a look. Yeah, because we have to keep. We can't change. Yeah, we can't change the height of the navigation menu, so we will have to do it a tiny bit different so that it's still closable. So the first thing I'm actually going to do is I'm going to add a container to this container, and I'm going to tell this container to be 80% of the width, and we're going to tell it to take up both grid cells. I'm going to push that to the top, and then we're going to send that to the back. So we've got our close icon. Next, I'm going to remove this margin on the left first. I'm going to actually give it a bit more width. I'm going to have to make this width let's do 100%, and then we will do the 6% on each side and dock that to the center. Oops. Click that open again. Go to the layers panel, container, margin. We want 6% on the left, 6% on the right, and then we want that to be in the center of the page, but it keeps right, remove that margin actually, and we actually will add it as padding, 6% on the left, 6% on the right. We'll then remove that background color, we'll make it white. We'll actually remove that padding, and we will give this a width of 90%. Then we'll have that come to the middle instead, that way. That should let's reset that so the size is back to how we wanted it. Click on the hamburger menu, open the menu. We're going to double that margin on the left to 60. And we will now tell it to display that menu again. We're going to click on the container. I'm going to make that maybe 400 pixels, give us a bit more room to work with for the minute. It doesn't have a home button, so we're going to manage menu, and we're going to remove the home button, home link from the menu, and we've got a contact button, so we're going to reopen that menu, click on the add elements, add a button to this, change that text to contact. We need it to have a yellow background, and we need to change that text to black, like so. I think it needs to be a little bit taller. Let's change that to 48 pixels. I think the width is fine. Oh, wrong one. Click that back down. I think that's what we're going to have to go with for the menu, I'm afraid, because of how we wouldn't be able to close this navigation menu without having that cross there. So we can't quite make it into the exact design, unfortunately, due to some limitations on what you can and can't do on Editor X. But I think that's the mobile navigation done then. Let's actually do one other thing. We will click this vertical menu, and let's do it the other way. We'll click that button, make sure that's docked to the center, and we're going to click that vertical menu. Oh, it won't let me stack for some reason. Why is it not letting me put these in a stack? Won't let me put them in a stack, so we're just going to have to bump up move it up that way a little bit. I think that looks about right. We will make this container a bit smaller in height. Oh, I'm going to have to now adjust that margin on the bottom. I think that looks about right. Let's check to see how it looks on the bigger mobile screens. Click the preview button first. Okay, why is it doing that? Let's open the menu again. Oh, it's because we've got the width of the menu was actual change. So on this one we need to make sure we've got the menu container selected, and I want to change that back to 100% width. Why didn't 100%? Right, sorry about that. What we actually have to do on this one, we need to open up that menu again to fix it. You can't set it to 100% with the menu container selected. We need to change the width to 100% viewport width. It won't let you do 100%, so we click on the viewport width and change it to 100. Now if we preview and make this screen larger, there we go. And that's unfortunately going to be as close as we can get it. I'll just change the padding on this as well to 6% on each side. Just open that back up. Yeah, there we go. And that's the mobile navigation done to the best that we can do with Editor X. Okay, next we're going to go back up to the desktop and start adding some animations and checking everything's looking good. So we're going to click that preview button, click the picture and go back. Alright, let's scroll down. We've got the navigation bar is fixed at the minute. Okay, these squares are also not quite the right size for the main width size of the view. Everything else is looking good. So the first thing I'm actually going to do is I'm going to give this a little bit more padding on the top. I'm going to make that 140 instead. It looks a little bit out of whack at the minute, but that's because we've got a reduced viewport height. If we click the publish button and then click on the view site, we can see it's actually now positioned in a better position. Oops. Now, I've just noticed something. The navigation menu design has updated on the desktop when we updated it on the tablet. So the text alignment on the menus does cascade back up, so you will have to leave it like that or create a new menu, but I think leaving it like that also looks fine. Right, next we're going to click on the header actually, because as we see at the moment we've got it in a fixed position. But what we're going to do is we're going to click on that header. We're going to go down to transition. We're going to turn the transition on and we're going to have it fade out. So as we scroll, it disappears, and then when we scroll back, it will come back. And we're also going to give this a solid background color. And we want to click the scroll effects and we want it to feel, and we want that color to be this blue. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to go over to Figma, put the image in, and then we'll use the dropper, grab that blue code, copy, don't need that open anymore. I'm going to click add to the colors, paste that in, apply, and now if we preview, when we scroll down it disappears. If we scroll back up it comes back and it's got that blue background. Next we're going to, there we go, start working on these hovers. So it doesn't look like the text actually has a hover effect but on the navigation menu, but we're going to change that navigation color. We will leave it on white as it looks, and we'll leave the clicked on white as it looks. Next we're going to select our button. I'm going to make sure in the designer tab, click the hover. As you can see, the hover color is still a white, but with a very low opacity. Maybe 5% is not enough. Let's try 20. 20 looks quite good. I also actually think we need to make that a minimum height of 48 just to give it a little bit more room on the top and bottom. Quickly preview. There we go. I think that looks about right. Next, let's start adding some animation. So we're going to select this heading text and we're going to click on this animation button. And as you can see, we've got lots of choices to choose from. We've got a reveal. You can have it float in, fly in, fade in. I quite like this reveal myself. I'm going to have it reveal from the left. We're going to want it to take 1 second. We don't want it to have a delay. And then we're going to choose our vector art, and we're going to give this an animation as well. And we want this to... what should we go with? Let's have a look. I think... let's have a look, see how slide in from the top. Yeah, I think that looks like quite a good one. Let's click the preview button. What we will do is we'll click on the arrow again, and we're going to click on the animation, but this time we're going to customize the animation. We're going to change it to a medium power so it comes in just that little bit slower in ease, and we're going to give it a delay of 0.8. This way this won't start happening until 0.8 of a second after it loads. So this will start appearing, and then after 0.8 of a second that will move in, or should. Let's click preview. There we go. Let's move on to the next section. Okay, as I said, on this section we need to actually make these a little bit bigger. But what I'm actually going to do, because I think I think on the smaller size screens, like a old laptop screen, that looks about the right size. What we're going to do is I'm actually going to add a breakpoint. I'm going to click done. Now we've now changed the primary breakpoint, so everything we do will still cascade down, but anything we change on this one shouldn't change on this larger breakpoint. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this section, and we're going to make this grid section a little bit bigger. Instead of 400, I'm going to give it a 500 pixel. So we just got a little bit more of a... It's a little bit more like the image. Just full screen that so we can kind of... Yeah. I think that's a little bit closer. It might even need to actually be a little bit bigger. Let's make sure we've got the section collected. And let's actually make that 550. Oh, that's the wrong one. Let's click here and make that 550. And we need to do this for each row so we got the consistency between the designs. And then we'll click on this one to... Now we'll edit this smaller breakpoint. So again, we'll click on the grids and we'll change this back to 400. 400. Check it hasn't messed up the other viewports. Nope, that's fine. Okay, now let's start. Right, so we've got a few choices of what we can do here. Well, on the image we can potentially give it a scroll behavior, so we could go for a parallax behavior on it, which would, I don't think it's going to work, to be honest, but let's scroll down and have a look. I suppose a parallax effect could work on it, or we can again click this little setting wheel. We can have a reveal animation on it, which looks like this. So we scroll down and the image comes in and then it reveals out. I quite like that myself. So we're going to do the same for the other images. Scroll behavior reveal. Oh, we've got a little gap there for some reason. Oh, I think that's because of the reveal. Let's check. Yeah, because when we set the reveal, it's adding a little bit of a gap on the design, but when it's actually in preview mode or visiting the website, that gap won't be there. And let's do the same to these two images as well. Reveal and reveal. Now let's add a little bit of animations to this look. Actually we might be adding, that might look okay. Let's have a preview. So we scroll down. I think that looks alright myself. I don't think we need any extra animations there. I mean, we could maybe add a reveal to this underline container just to kind of help alert people to this link that they can click on. I want it to reveal from the left, so let's make it reveal a little bit quicker. Now let's go with 1 second on the reveal, and we'll do the same for this other line. Reveal, customize, 1 second. Scroll back up to the top, click preview again. So we've got the other creatives, a little line. Like that. There we go, I think that looks quite good. Let's now add some animations to our client testimonies. I think we will go again with a, we could either choose a reveal, but should we try, maybe let's go with a float in, but we will tell it to float in from the bottom. And we will do the same for these cards. We'll click on the item, we'll click on the animation, and we'll have them float in also from the bottom. We'll have them have the same speed, but we're going to give these a slight delay of 0.8 seconds. Well, 0.8 seconds like we did for the arrow at the top. Let's have a little look, see how that looks. Click the preview button, scroll down, that comes up, and then they come up. I think that looks quite good. We can add a similar animation to these images as well. We'll have them come up from the bottom over 1 second. We won't have any delay on this one, and we won't add any animations to the footer. Oh, we've got a hover effect on these lines, so we actually need to head back up. What we're going to do for this, we're going to have to click on the text, then we're going to go over to the interactions on the inspectors panel, and we're going to add a hover interaction. We want to we don't want to animate the text, we want to animate this little bar underneath. So we're going to click on choose on canvas, and then we're going to click on that little bar. We're going to adjust the color, and then we're going to adjust the animation. We want that fill color to be the full yellow at 100%. Let's preview. There we go. We want it to ease in and out. I think over the 6 seconds is fine. Let's click preview and see how it looks. that looks okay. At the moment we haven't actually got these buttons linked to anywhere, which is why we're not getting the little pointer. But if we click on the text and then click link, we will link it to one of the other pages. Oh, we want to remove the underline. I'm going to click off of that for a second, re-click on that and remove the underline. And we'll do the same for this one. We'll first click the link and we'll do the set the link part up first this time. Click off for a second, click back on the text, remove the underline. Then we will click on the interactions again. We will add an interaction. We want to select the container. We want to change the color. We adjust the animation. Select the red, and that one's done as well. Okay, we scroll down. What else have we got? We've got a hover animation on the links and on the icons. So to scroll down to the footer, we're going to select our navigation menu. On this one, we're going to go over to the design tab. We're going to click hover text, and we want that to be white. And then we need to do the same for these. We're going to select the vector item. We're going to click add interaction. Right, we can't adjust the colors of a vector item. Let's check, sorry, 2 seconds. Yeah, we can't actually adjust the color in an animation via editor X. This ended up running a bit longer than I expected, but thank you for watching. I hope you found this video helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.